Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for being here, everybody. We're very excited, honored to have a very special guest today. Over here, we have the governor of our state. This is Governor Daniel Malloy. So some of our students here. With Governor Malloy is our Commissioner of Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, Commissioner Dan Esty. Over here, this is First Selectman Edward Sheehy from the town of Woodbridge. And this is Mr. William Blake. He is the chairman of the Region 5 Board of Education. So last week, when we learned that the governor was coming, we thought he was going to be here to help us celebrate Amity Spirit Week. So this is in the lead up to our homecoming football game. Each day this week is a special event. Today you arrived, Governor, and it's black and gold day. So you'll see a lot of students are in black and gold. So we thought that we didn't know if you'd arrive prepared. So we thought we would give you something black and gold to wear. Be grateful that it's black and gold day today, because tomorrow's pajama day. So not so sure if you wanted to show up in your robe. So in any event, it's my pleasure to introduce, we're going to have Mr. Sheehy speak first. We're going to talk a little bit today about energy efficiency and some of the steps that Amity Regional High School has taken to become a greener, more energy efficient school. So Mr. Sheehy.
Well, thank you everyone for showing up at this beautiful day, and I want to welcome Governor Malloy to Woodbridge. He's a frequent visitor to Woodbridge. He was at the Jewish Community Center celebrating their 100th anniversary about 2 weeks ago. And of course, Commissioner Esty, we welcome you as well. And I have this opportunity to publicly thank Governor Malloy for the $500,000 steep grant Woodbridge received to renovate our police station, and the $300,000 small cities grant for home rehabilitation. So we thank you for that, Governor. And I know today we're focusing on natural gas expansion to Woodbridge. And this concept began as a suggestion by Dr. Bill Silverberg, a Woodbridge resident, a retired pediatrician, and a former member of the Amity Board of Education. His proposal was to extend the natural gas line from the Jewish Community Center on Amity Road to the center of Woodbridge to provide the town with a cheaper, cleaner, and more efficient source of energy. Bill met with me and then with Val Farrow of the Southern Connecticut Gas Company, and then other representatives of the Southern Connecticut Gas Company. And as a result, the Southern Connecticut Gas Company agreed to extend the gas line. Construction began in June and was completed in August at no cost to any of the town residents or entities on the gas line. Service is extended to the meter on the building. All work inside the building is the responsibility of the owner. As a result of this, natural gas is now flowing here at Amity High School and will in the next few months be energizing our town center, the town hall, the library, the police station, the firehouse, the center building, Beecher Road School, and our new public works facility, which will begin construction in the spring. And as a result of all that, the town will realize substantial savings in energy costs. And I know the Southern Connecticut Gas Company has a chart to specify what those charges are, but I'm satisfied with the word substantial. And I know that will happen. In addition, 31 residents who live along the gas line have agreed to switch to natural gas, and there are 50 others who are eligible. Also, Our Lady of the Assumption Church, and I know Father Ginelli is here today, along with Matt Giglietti and Andrew Esposito, who are officers of the church. Congregation B'nai Jacob and the Congregational Church will also be converting to natural gas. I'd like to thank Joe Hellauer, our town administrative officer, for serving as the project coordinator for this gas line extension. And I'd also like to mention to our friends from the Southern Connecticut Gas that I have received numerous requests from Woodward residents to further extend the gas line. And I would request and encourage the Southern Connecticut Gas Company to extend the gas line, and hope that we can discuss this in the near future. Finally, in response to the increased number of storms and weather events impacting power supply, Commissioner Esty has proposed, among other strategies, developing microgrids for critical facilities throughout the state. A microgrid is a self-contained underground power grid with an independent power source for a select group of properties. Woodbridge was selected by UI as one of 2 towns in the UI coverage area, the other being Stratford, because of its natural setting, compact town center, and natural gas service for a possible location for a microgrid. Woodbridge is presently preparing a project feasibility application to the DEP for a microgrid. So we welcome Governor Malloy and Commissioner Esty here today, and we support their efforts to reduce energy costs and promote clean energy in our state. Thank you.
Thank you, First Selectman Shi. It's now my privilege to introduce the Commissioner from the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, Mr. Esty.
Dr. Britton, thank you. First Selectman, thank you for the chance to be here. Thank you all for coming, and especially to our students for staying after school. I do come from Cheshire Ram country, so it takes special focus to put on black and gold today, but I did. So it's a pleasure to be part of Spirit Week here, and I wish you the very best as you move towards the Thanksgiving celebration. It is important for us to stop and to celebrate success when it comes to energy policy moving forward. And what you all have done here is a mark of great success. The governor asked me in taking this job to focus on energy, the environment, but also the economy. And understanding that we spell the acronym of our department, Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, with a 30. And that is the economy, the need for economic growth, and for jobs. And what we're doing by moving towards a Connecticut energy future that is cheaper, cleaner, and more reliable is providing that foundation for growth, for business success, and for lower bills in our public buildings, in our school buildings, in our churches. So it's a special opportunity to celebrate Church of the Assumption and the cost savings that have been achieved. Father Gene, thank you for being here to help celebrate with us. It really is incredibly important across all of society that we find ways to lower costs. And what we're doing here today is to celebrate not just an energy strategy, but a commitment across the state. So it's a special pleasure to celebrate with a couple of our senators. Thank you for being here, as well as a couple of representatives, and Vicki Nardello, chair of our Energy Committee over the past 4 years. A special thanks to all you have done to help move this strategy along and ensure that we in Connecticut are going to deliver cheaper, cleaner, and more reliable electricity and more broadly energy for the citizens of this state. For those who are focused on the electricity piece of this agenda, rates are down 17%. And for those who've been invested in efficiency, as this school has done, the savings on bills is even greater, 20 to 30%. That is an exciting success story and one that has not been given as much attention, frankly, as it needs to in the media. We are pushing forward, at the governor's insistence, on a broader agenda and a comprehensive energy strategy that is out now in draft, open for your comments, ready to be refined, provides a sweep across all sectors, all fuels, looking out to 2050, thinking about how, again, we bring cheaper, cleaner, and more reliable energy. And I think what we see is that natural gas, which is what we're particularly celebrating here today, is a very important part of that story. I'm sure all of you know this, but we have seen in our United States a revolution in the last couple of years in terms of the energy underpinnings for our society and our economy. There is now available something called shale gas that is available not very far from Connecticut. The most near deposits are in something called the Marcellus Shale on the New York-Pennsylvania border, which is 75 miles west of Connecticut. And that shale gas can now be gotten at in a much cheaper way than the old natural gas of the past. So the price of natural gas, which was long linked to the price of oil, and in fact was a bit more expensive over the last 40 years, is today much cheaper than the price of oil. Natural gas at this moment is about 1/3 of the price of oil. It burns cleaner than oil, much, much cleaner than coal, reduces greenhouse gas emissions, and is more reliable because it's a domestic supply. And it's available through thick and thin, and we think provides the best bet going forward out over the next several decades. So we're thrilled by Amity's leadership, by the town of Woodbridge's commitment, and by the way that this came together as a project very quickly. The gas company, town officials, the church officials, all pulling together so that within the course of a year, this project was envisioned and executed with the promise of enormous cost savings. I think the calculation for the school alone is $120,000 off the energy bill. That is stunning. And at a time when we're all facing tough budgets, tight need to control expenditures, that's the kind of thing a first selectman likes to hear. That's the kind of thing a principal likes to hear, because this is money that can be devoted to other critical needs like more teachers, books, and an expanded educational opportunity. So let me close by saying thank you to Governor Malloy for the leadership you've provided. It is a great pleasure to follow through and to try and make this happen on the ground. And I honor those of you here who've provided a first best example of how this natural gas opportunity can play out in the state of Connecticut. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Estee. So, Mr. Malloy, I know you probably know a lot of the students in the room, but let me introduce a couple of the students here today. A lot of these students are in our advanced placement environmental science courses. There are also students here today who are in our science research program and are doing research specifically on energy and the environment. So a lot of them are here not only to hear from you, but to learn a little bit about some of the things that you're proposing in terms of making Connecticut a more energy efficient state. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to all of you students and everyone here today, Governor Daniel Malloy.
Thank you. So I asked whether it was against the rules to wear a hat in the building, and it's not, so I'll put my my hat on, and I am particularly happy that I didn't come on pajama day. I want to say that. It's great to be here. Let me begin by saying that Amity is a great school. Filled with students and faculty members of with extraordinary gifts, extremely hardworking people, and you're all to be congratulated, administrators, teachers, and students, for what you've accomplished over the years. So congratulations on a great job. We have Senator Crisco's with us. Vicki Nardello has previously been mentioned. Where is she? She had the baby a little bit. There, she got the baby. Paul Davis, one of our state representatives, and Gail Schlossberg, one of our state senators, is also with us. I want to acknowledge them. To the students, so let me, you're right, I know all the rest of the people. This is really important stuff, and I want to take a moment and talk about what I think is going to happen in North America in just the next few years. Some of that, some people are worried about, particularly oil from tar sands and the amount of energy required to harvest that form of oil. But I think ultimately, as I look at Mexico, the United States, and Canada, you can reasonably predict that North America will be effectively energy independent from the rest of the world in a fairly quick period of time. A lot of this has to do with the deposits of gas that are being found and the methods to harvest that gas. A lot of it has to do with new oil finds in both Canada and the United States. And a lot of it has to do with hydroelectric coming out of Canada and their great capacity for additional hydroelectric creation. Of course, what we have to ultimately do is build out a distribution system to get that to the marketplaces where it can be taken advantage of. With the exception of the tar sands, if we put that aside, hydroelectric is very good news environmentally. There are some problems, but good news environmentally. And the replacement of coal and oil with natural gas environmentally is also very important. What is the difference is about a 98% reduction in sulfur particulate emissions by going from oil to gas, just as one of the statistics that may be important. In the state of Connecticut, however, we have languished with a delivery system that failed to serve the public and failed to give the option, because this is what we're talking about. We're talking about options here. Homeowners, businesses, schools, hospitals, synagogues, churches should have the option to choose gas if they want to. And that's what we're talking about. Now, some of the reason, again to the students, we've done some silly things in the state of Connecticut. For instance, with respect to the extension of lines, our state requires a full recovery of cost in 15 years, which means that you have to get those new hookups to pay relatively high buy-in prices, even beyond changing their house at an average of $8,000 a house. They've got to pay in to recover that cost. But in Massachusetts and in Rhode Island, the utilities can recover that cost for up to 20, 25, or even 30 years, meaning that the bill for the person who converts to natural gas over that period of time can be lower. We also want to do that right now because we have these extraordinarily low interest rates in this environment. We want to be able to grab onto that low cost of extending lines and giving people options, even going so far as being willing to create a program that would help homeowners defray that $8,000 average cost in their homes, ultimately, for the conversion, and pay it back on a portion of the savings that they would have over oil over that same period of time. I wanted to come here because this demonstrates exactly what we're talking about and our desire to get to substantially higher penetration rates for the use of natural gas. Just statistically, New Jersey, 70% penetration. Massachusetts and Rhode Island, somewhere between 47 and 50% penetration. Connecticut, 30% penetration. Now, you didn't talk about advanced placement economics, but if anyone's in an economics course, let's talk about what that means. We know at a third the cost of oil right now, and by the way, we have charted this out. We've looked at everybody's expectations with respect to the cost of oil rising, where we've been extremely conservative, quite frankly, in my opinion, unreasonably conservative, because what's going to happen when the Indian and the Chinese economies get back to where they were just a few years ago, along with the United States and Europe a few years from now, getting back to where they are, oil, I believe, will go through the roof. But we were very conservative, and conservative meaning that we allowed for the rise in natural gas very substantially. But all of our modeling, 14 to 16 different models, all indicate that natural gas for the next 15 years or so will be substantially less expensive than oil. But economically, if our state is to compete with 49 other states and the rest of the world, we have to access lower cost energy. We have the highest cost in the continental United States for electricity as I stand here. We have extremely high costs because of the lack of penetration of natural gas right now in factories, in office complexes, and in hospitals, and in school systems, and in municipalities that rely on property tax to pay their bills. We create a more efficient Connecticut if we can move forward with this program. And so coming out and celebrating this community's great efforts, as well as the willingness of all of these other institutions, high volume users, as well as about 30 homeowners who have already signed up, is an important way for us to demonstrate long-term the wisdom of this. Final note. I was mayor of the city of Stamford for 14 years. The high school that I graduated from, West Hill High School, was built in 1973. Your square footage is about 300,000 square feet. I think West Hill is larger than that. When I became mayor of the city, the hot water system was electric. We undertook almost immediately to change from electric boilers to natural gas. We did exactly what you're doing here, running the line up Roxbury Road to get to that school, and produced, even because of the efficiency as opposed to price differential oil, because we weren't comparing oil, massive savings. We know if we make it just a little bit easier in the state of Connecticut, this system will build itself out and do so in an economically feasible way that will deliver long-term savings to private homeowners, business entities, municipalities, and hospitals. And that's what we're in business to do, and that's why I wanted to stop by and see the students and see the rest of the folks and run into our state reps, great state reps and state senators as well. So I want to thank you for that. Do we have any, I'm supposed to take questions? Do we have any questions? I just answered them all. No. Did you have a question? Are you a reporter?
No.
Just taking notes? You're a far better student than I was. Yeah, so you're kind of like a reporter.
Yeah.
All right, but nicer, yeah. Anybody? Do you have a question? Come on. I'm going to put you on the spot.
What do you think the best result of hooking up public buildings and high schools up to natural gas lines?
Well, you know, I think, let me go to the Selectman's comments and the situation where education government as well as general government find itself right now. We've been in a sustained period of weakness economically, longer than anyone in this room has previously experienced. And I don't think that that's going to turn around overnight. So sustaining investments is going to turn on whether boards of education, municipalities, and other entities can do more with the same amount of money that they have. Now, I don't know what your average salary of a teacher is in this school, but if we assume it's $65,000 all in, your yearly savings after year one will cover almost 2 teachers' salaries. I mean, that's pretty big. A father can add a mass now to, you know, heat up the building that much earlier in the morning if he wants. It has major impacts. And then when you talk about other, you know, the Beecher School, for instance, I think is predicting about somewhere close to $100,000 a year of savings. Your cost of conversion in the building was about $120,000. So after year one, that's $120,000 a year. I personally think it'll grow, because I think in 3 years' time, oil will go through the roof again. Yes?
Can you talk about predicted costs, predicted savings?
Yep.
As you said, you changed the boilers in West High School to natural gas. Are there different numbers you got from that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, millions. Yeah, I mean, millions, because electricity is not an efficient way to heat hot water for a large institutional use. Millions. Yep. It does if we can get Canadian hydroelectric into the New England marketplace. So we have a common marketplace. Ourselves, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, effectively New Hampshire, substantial portion of Vermont, and even southern Maine are all in one, in essence, we're buying from one another's facilities. If we can get, and one of the reasons historically our electric costs have been very high was the premium that gas for a long time represented. And so effectively our price was set by natural gas. Natural gas has fallen substantially, but 90% of our electric consumption, our electric production is tied to that price. If we can introduce a diverse and substantially cleaner source, which would be Canadian hydroelectric, into the marketplace, I think it will have a very positive impact on the pricing structure. It'll create efficiencies in and of itself. And the interesting thing about hydroelectric in Canada is they already have too much. They already have more energy than they can currently use, and this is now, if anyone's in advanced placement politics, political science, here's a note. Their federal policy, their federal leaders have promised to build out additional hydro capacity in Canada, even though they don't have a marketplace. And it has to do with their relationship with their provinces, and specifically Labrador, Newfoundland. So they've made a gigantic promise to build out the Lower Churchill, that's a river system, and add additional capacity, and substantially greater capacity than they have a use for. You introduce that into our marketplace, it's going to have a positive impact. Yeah?
With the upcoming legislative session, what are you looking for from the legislative side of this?
Just to agree with everything just let me do it now. Every session takes on its own flavor. We'll have to spend a fair amount of time dealing with budgetary shortfalls. Revenues are not recovering at the rate, even though we were very conservative in our assumptions about growth. Those very conservative assumptions have not been met. So a lot of time will be devoted, as the long session is intended to be, to the biennium, the 2-year budget. But this is a session where every member of the legislature can propose legislation, and there's a whole process that you go through on that. There'll be some good ideas, there'll be some bad ideas, there'll be some ideas that probably don't see the light of day, and others that should, that might not. That all will work itself through the committee structure. We'll have some recommendations, but we're not prepared to roll those out quite this early. But most of our hard work will be around the budgetary issues. All right. Any of the paid people have any questions? No? Well, they're doing a good job. They're doing your job for you. I have this fellow right back here.
Going back to what you were saying about energy coming from Canada, how do you propose that we bring that into, especially Connecticut?
It's nice if it gets to Connecticut. What's important is that it get into the marketplace, because that's how we buy, right? So we don't necessarily have to have a direct line in, but it's got to get into the marketplace somewhere. That can be done through New Hampshire. New Hampshire has its own issue around about a 40-mile stretch of the completion of that system, and is debating whether it should be had at all, what the financial implications tax-wise and otherwise are to New Hampshire, and whether they want it above ground or below ground, and what sinking that might pose to the cost of that system build-out. I think all of that will get resolved. Elections have been had in New Hampshire and elsewhere, and there's an upside for New Hampshire as well on the price side, as well as the tax side, because you get to tax those systems. So I think ultimately we'll get that resolved. Okay. Yes.
How many years do you think it will take to reach the same level of natural gas use as you're saying in Massachusetts and New Jersey? How long do you think it will reach the same percentage as those states?
I think a minimum of 7 to 8. You'd agree with that. I think that the faster we do it, the more likely we are to build the system on really record low interest rates. And so the faster we do it, the greater the savings, at least on the finance side. And so we'd like to see it really jump-started. And we're going to work with the utilities, just making some of those changes. For instance, the recovery cost equation will probably encourage them to spend some more money, because they can take advantage of these record low rates to do it. One more? Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead. 1 or 2 more. No. Go ahead. You paid people have to, make a living.
I was at the public hearing in Bridgeport.
Yep.
Hearing about the plan, and a lot of small businessmen from the different oil companies in Connecticut came out.
Sure.
Concerned about, whether natural gas prices will stay the same or, stay low, which you addressed, but also concerns about whether we have the right infrastructure, and also what's going to happen to their jobs. So I was just wondering.
Well, the same, when, we used to burn wood in Connecticut for energy, for heating, and and we had no refrigeration, so people started delivering wood and delivering ice. And then they went from doing that to delivering coal, and then they went from coal to delivering oil, and then systems, they evolve. We decided not to use whale oil in Connecticut a long time ago. And that caused displacement. But having said all of that, our predictions are that we'll create thousands of jobs just in the transition from one system to another. These companies absolutely could play a leading role in the installation and the conversion of those systems. And ultimately, we're not requiring anything happen. This is giving our citizens the choice that they have in other states that they don't currently have in our state. So is the answer to that question, therefore, that, well, we shouldn't give our citizens the option to have to heat differently, more efficiently, with less particulate emissions? If that's the equation, you ultimately have to reject that, understanding that there's a trade-off in interest. Citizens, as demonstrated here, about 79, 80 individual homeowners can hook up to this system. 30 have already said that they want to do it. I understand that that's scary, but business models have to change over time. Okay? Yep.
Yeah, so what I see is our situation current debate is not in compliance with our strategy or way using electricity or other sustainable methods to our homes and people. But moving into natural gas, I see it as a sort of but as a leader of the state, how do you use the shipping of natural gas to look for more sustainable resources?
Right. You know, we've got, well, a couple of things. Number one, it gives us a lot of time, but shouldn't give us any excuse not to be making appropriate levels of investment in technologies that are most likely to prove results. Although we have to buy and invest in those technologies differently than we did in the past. We really have to let the market play a role, as opposed to our deciding that you have a good idea, therefore we're going to agree to buy your electricity that you generate one way or another at 3 times the going rate. It's a bad equation for us. Now, I don't mind putting you in competition with him and him and him, who all have ideas about how to produce that energy, but you all have to give me a price, and I choose the lowest price. So we have to have competition in the marketplace to actually drive those costs down as rapidly as possible. We've gone from predictions as low as a domestic supply of 25 to 50 years of natural gas availability to, I haven't seen anything less than 125 years come out. So we bought ourselves a substantial amount of time to prove those other technologies out. All the while, we're going to a fuel that is substantially cleaner than oil, although not perfect. And some people will argue that there can be clean coal. We have very little coal generation in the state of Connecticut, and there's a reason that we have very little coal generation in Connecticut, and that it's not clean. So we need to move forward in developing those technologies, and I think this gives us some time to do it. And then I think, you go back to this economic question, we have to lower effectively, on a 50-state basis, Connecticut has to lower its cost. Otherwise, we'll have another 22 years along the lines of what we had the last 22 years, and that's net job disappearance, loss. We're trying to make government substantially more efficient to lower costs, but one of the quickest paybacks, as demonstrated in this building at $120,000 savings per year, is this conversion. Okay. Hey, listen, it's great to be with everybody. Thank you for having me here. Thanks for the hat. And it's great to be with you all. Thank you.
How can you connect this energy transition to the creation of jobs in Connecticut?
Well, first of all, the implementation of the program, the build out of the system, the conversion of houses, buildings will add about 7,000 jobs to the economy. But the long-term impact is the lower cost of operations in Connecticut, therefore making Connecticut a more desirable place to be, to manufacture, to have offices, and so lowering cost is part of what we have to do. And this is a real quick way to do that.
Also, how can Amity stay a prime example of cleaner energy in the future?
Well, I mean, I think that's there's a reason we're here, and that is that Amity or the community is demonstrating just that. The extension of this system at a cost of about $1.1 million is leading to this high school saving $120,000 per year. That system's going to be in place for forever. But now other buildings along the course of that system are also going to tie in. So it's entirely possible that when everything is said and done, that your total savings just from that installation of that one line could approach $1 million. That's a pretty good investment. $1 million a year for $1 million investment. That's a pretty good rate of return. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And so, from your position, how do you feel this new extension of the gas line is going to help the Amity community?
Well, one of the things that we look at, and the governor mentioned it, is the state budget issues. We're funding our education programs at a particular level. We're meeting greater and greater challenges because our revenues aren't reaching the levels we expected. So if we find ways to conserve in some areas, we can maintain the funding for the areas that we really feel are important, and that's, of course, the education of our students.
Okay, and how do you feel Governor Malloy addressed the situation today?
The governor is very, very knowledgeable about this. This is a real important initiative for his administration. It's a real important initiative for the legislature this year. I'm hopeful that we're going to be working together on this to not only advance natural gas but other forms of renewable energy. I'm a member of the Environment Committee, so there are concerns. We're hearing from constituents. We have a wind regulation that's coming up, and many residents aren't happy with some of the things that involve change and meeting new challenges. So there are going to be some interesting times in a few weeks coming up.
What are some of your concerns coming from the Environmental Board?
A lot of what we hear from our residents is we love the cost of lower energy, clean energy, but some of the things, as I mentioned, such as wind farms, we don't want them in our backyard. And hydroelectric, when we're dealing with hydroelectric, Connecticut doesn't have a tremendous amount of potential in the hydroelectric area, so we're looking at transportation systems or transmission system over great distances, and that means putting up new transmission lines, which of course is a big issue in our local community. Years ago when we updated the transmission lines, there was a lot of opposition for local residents and a lot of concerns about the health issues that they might cause. So those are problems.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Okay, so from your point of view, how do you feel about the new gas line coming into Amity and how it'll affect the community?
I think it seems very exciting. Obviously, this is a nice opportunity for us to diversify our energy system here at Amity and in the community in Woodbridge. And as you heard the governor talk about and Mr. Sheehy, that this is going to save our town an awful lot of money, save the school system a lot of money, and that's money that can then be redeployed to use for you here in school, which is a good thing. So as we are using natural gas, we will be burning cleaner energy and we'll have a lot less emissions in the air, so that's good for you, good for the kids and the community. We'll have a better environment, and it's also a lot less expensive. So for everybody involved, it's a good system to have, and we know that for a number of homes in the area, they'll also be joining the natural gas system, and that will save them money. So it's all good. You get to save money and have a clean environment at the same time.
What did you get out of Governor Malloy's visit here today at Amity?
Well, I think his points are well-founded. I mean, certainly for your generation, it's going to be a very important thing. The days of coal and oil are quickly giving way to the days of new forms of energy. So that the governor's on top of it, I think, is a wise and prudent move.
Is there anything that you thought he should have mentioned that he did not?
Well, to the extent that he was only here for a short time, and just giving a sort of a thumbnail sketch of what I imagine is a far more detailed plan. I think that no, I didn't take anything negative away from it or feel like he left anything uncovered.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So how, from a student's perspective, did you feel Governor Malloy did today here at Amity?
Well, first I want to thank the governor for coming. It was a great experience. We've never had a governor come to, or never had Governor Malloy come to Amity before, so this is a really great experience. But in terms of how he did, I thought he did well. He addressed the questions. Energy, environment is a big issue that needs to be focused on. He's definitely, obviously, willing to focus on that from the comments he made today, and we'll be looking forward to that in the next legislative session, hopefully doing things like the natural gas pipeline, expanding that. So I think he did very well.
And do you think the natural gas line expansion, do you think that will have a positive or a negative effect on the Amity community?
Well, I think if you're talking about the school in particular, I think it's definitely a positive effect. You know, we're in a bad economy, and you can't find things that pay off in 1 year. This does. So it's very hard to find that. Being $120,000, it's a good price if we're talking about saving over the long term. Yeah, I work with the Board of Education. I do things like that, and they're always trying to find places to save, and I think this is a great one. Extending it to the community is just an added benefit. But I think hopefully this will be installed very soon. We can get this done and hopefully bring natural gas to Amity, which obviously the plans were to do. So we're looking forward to that.
Thank you very much.
No problem.